Today I'm going to talk about why it's more important to be consistent than it is to be perfect. There was a study done by an art teacher back in the day, and basically this art teacher took a group of students, and this one group of students made as many clay pots as they could, and the other group had the assignment to make one perfect clay pot. Every day this one group would create a pot every day, all the time, whereas this other group over here would try to create one perfect clay pot, and that's all they would work on, and they would turn it in at the end of the year. Now the one group was assigned with after turning in this perfect clay pot, and the other group was just to make a bunch, and they were going to see which group made the best clay pots. And at the end of the year, do you want to know what group made the best clay pot? It wasn't the group that made one clay pot for the entire year. It was actually the group that made hundreds and hundreds of them. They were the group that actually made the best clay pots. Why did they make the best clay pots? Because they kept doing it over and over again. That's how you actually get good at something. The way that you get good at something isn't sitting down and trying to do it perfect forever. The way you get good at something is by doing something mediocre over and over again until you start doing it well, and then eventually you'll start doing it very well consistently, and it'll be easy to do. Let me give a personal example. When I was younger, I got into the gym and I got very consistent in the gym and I built up a very good physique. But then, as I trained and built up a pretty good physique, COVID came along and other things like that came into my life, and I had these seasons in my gym journey where my physique would actually go down because I became inconsistent in my training. I would only train when I felt like training. So I would wait until, if I felt perfect, if I felt like training, then yeah, I'd go train. But a lot of times, if I didn't feel like training, I just wouldn't go. So slowly, my time and the amount of times that I trained went down and down because I felt like I needed to be perfect when I needed to train instead of actually just going in and training consistently. When I was early in my training, I trained consistently and I had consistent growth, even though sometimes I didn't feel perfect and my training was rather mediocre. But when I got into these phases of inconsistent training, my growth didn't really go up much. And sometimes it even went down. And very often it would just plateau and stay flat. So how did I fix that? Well, the way that I fixed my inconsistent training is that when I was working at a place a little while ago, and it had a gym in it. It had a small gym in the back of it. And I would clean that building at night when there was nobody else around. I was cleaning a middle school. And everybody would be gone. And then on my break, I would go in there for as long as I wanted to. So basically, my rule was I had to do 2 exercises. I had to go up. I would get up on the pull-up bar because I still had pretty decent strengths from my earlier training and my inconsistent training. So I would do 1 set of max pull-ups, and then I would immediately go over superset and do 1 set of max dips. That was my required training. And after that, if I didn't feel like training anymore, I would just be done. I would say, okay, I tried. I didn't feel like training anymore, but that was enough. That was a level of training, even though it wasn't perfect, even though it wasn't that much, that if I actually sat down, or not, I guess I didn't sit down, but if I actually just went in and did the training for, if I went in and did the training, it felt, it would actually often fire me up. Now, for the first week or two, I didn't really feel like doing it. I would go in, I'd be like, I'd feel kind of mediocre most of the time. But as I got more consistent, I would actually start to get pumped up. And when I would go in there and I'd do the training, a lot of the times I just realized, hey, I'm feeling great. And I would just keep training. I would just keep on doing it. It wasn't perfect, but it was consistent. And when I got consistent, doing more and more became easy. So that those 2 sets often turned into 15 minutes. And often that 15 minutes would turn into I do a 15-minute workout there. And then at my lunch break, where I had 30 minutes, I would take another 10, 15 minutes there. And then I'd get about 30 minutes of training in during my break. So all of this led to me being able to be more consistent. Now, at my current job, I actually I'm at the best training season I've been at in a while. And for the last couple months, I've been going 4 days a week for an hour at a time, training in a full gym. So that's been great. And not to say that before that I wasn't training at all. I mean, I was training consistently at that other job before that. And then before that even, I was still inconsistently training. But what got me back into consistent training wasn't doing it perfectly. That's what I thought I had to do. I thought I had to carve out an hour of training. No, I just needed to carve out a small habit that was so simple and so easy for me to do that I just had no real excuse to do it or not to do it at all. And because I did that, I started to get better and better in my training. And actually, those hard things that at first were very, very difficult for me to get into doing became easier. And what happens is, although for a while you might feel like, oh, I don't feel like doing this, this is kind of hard, you'll get into a state where, let's say if you were training 4 days a week in the gym, that was your goal. Let's say that when you start training, you only feel like training 0 or maybe 1 day per week. Once you've got consistently into training, that number is going to go up. You're not going to feel like training 1 day a week. You're going to start feeling like, oh, I actually really want to train 2 days a week. And now it becomes a lot easier. And then eventually, you're going to have most days in the gym, or at least a good number of them, where you actually feel motivated to train. Like most days that I go into the gym, I actually feel really, really excited that I'm going to the gym. I'm like, yeah, it's gym time. I'm actually excited to do this. Whereas before, I was really, really struggling with it. So how I fixed it was I just got consistent doing something so simple for me that I was able to do that consistently. And after I got consistent, it just became easier to do more and more and more. So my piece of advice for today is stop trying to be perfect in what you do and instead try to be consistent. You can do something very simple, you can do something very small, but instead of, just not doing anything at all, it's better to take action, even if it's such a small step that you feel like, well, what is this going to change? It doesn't matter. You just need to start taking the first step. And once you start taking the first step, taking the next step will be easier. And then you've realized you've just walked a mile and it was no problem. So that's what you do. The journey of 1,000 steps, or whatever they say, starts, or the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Isn't that the saying? And right now I'm actually trying to apply that to my own life. Now I've had some other old YouTube channels that I've made random videos on, but I was never consistent with them. I've always wanted to make YouTube videos, but I realized that I need to try to be consistent. And that's my goal. I want to try to consistently post on this channel, even if my videos aren't perfect, because obviously they're not. I mean, look, I'm filming in an old beat-up car, on a phone. But I decided I want to do this, so even though I don't know how to edit or do any of that kind of stuff, I'm just going to sit here and make videos and talk about the things that I want to talk about and try to give advice to people that helped me and try to give that advice to someone so that maybe it can help them also. And so that's my video, basically. And I hope that if you enjoyed it, that you can tell me, because what really keeps me going on making these videos is comments where people say that this video was actually helpful to them, because that's what I want to do. It would be cool, and there's obviously that vain side of everyone that is like, oh, it'd be really cool to get a bunch of views on YouTube, because you have that ego built up inside of you. And I have that ego built up inside of me where I want attention from people and I want to feel validated. And I want to have all these people watching. And even bigger than just the validation, though, for me, is the desire to, make money. I have a spirit where I enjoy working on projects and I enjoy having a monetary income from that. But that isn't the main goal. I need to not make that the main goal, because obviously it would be really cool to do YouTube as a job. I don't find that probable in the near future, but I think maybe if I post consistently, maybe people will start watching. Maybe not, but maybe they will. So my goal right now is I'm going to try to post consistently for a year. We'll see if we come back to this and I've actually posted consistently for a year, and I'll see where I am. And then I'll decide if, doing YouTube is something that I'm actually interested in trying to progress and take further. And as I go along, I'm going to keep trying to do that. But as I continue to make videos, hopefully I progress and get better at making videos. Although there is a certain degree where I actually like a more unedited, raw sort of footage feel. I feel like it's a little bit more personal. But we'll just see how I feel as time goes along. I'd also like to thank my 4 subscribers. I don't know if anyone who subscribed actually watched this video, but if you have, it would be cool if you left a message or put a thumbs up, because, yeah, thank you for subscribing. It's actually really cool, though, that there's been 4 people. Even though that doesn't seem like a lot of people, there's 4 people that my videos have been interesting enough to, or helpful enough to, that they've actually decided that I'm worthwhile to subscribe to. So that's actually a really cool thing. So thank you guys. And I hope that you have a good day. Bye.